Hello, and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Sent.
I'm Axion.
And we are continuing our journey through Undertale while we return to the world of Redwall, this time with another prequel, Mossflower. We're kind of sort of working our way backwards, apparently.
Yep.
Oh, that's not quite true. We skipped the Bellmaker, but that's fine. But yeah, so Mossflower takes place, it's actually the one chronologically before Mariel of Redwall. So, yeah, Mariel and the Bellmaker would be the paired series that would go after this. So, we've only really missed one if we're going backwards through things, which is kind of an interesting way to look at a series. But yeah, this is before Redwall exists. Big ol' eye. But yeah, we enter the story in a time of great resistance because, well, there is not a safe place to be if you're a woodlander. You live in Kotir, under the tyranny of
Lord Green Eyes.
Green Eyes. I thought it was his last name. But
It is. It's like Verduga.
Verdaga, yes. It's like I remember his daughter because she's actually the main villain. But yeah, Verdaga Green Eyes, who has actually been a fairly benevolent tyrant as far as tyrants go. He doesn't really impose too much on the Woodlanders so long as they behave themselves, but, well, you know, they would still like to be free and independent because the way they see it, the Mossflower Wood is a different place than Kotir. Well, the Wildcats don't see it that way. And we actually get to see this from the perspective of an outsider, a traveling warrior who just so happens to stumble into the place and gets captured because he doesn't know what the heck is going on. His name is Martin.
Martin the Warrior. And by the time Martin arrives in Kotir, he's already a veteran. He's spent much of his life already fighting. He has had traveling and warrior companions, some of which he's lost. And he has set out, after spending much of his life guarding his original homeland, to seek new lands and new challenges.
Yep. Well, he's promptly thrown in prison, though there's some argument among the three Wildcats because Bardaga has two children, his son Gingivere and his daughter Sarmina. And, well, they're trying to figure out, well, how should we sentence him? Gingivere's like, well, he didn't know, let's just escort him to the border and give him his sword back. And then he leaves. Sarmina's like, kill him! Bardaga kind of compromises this, well, let's throw him in his cell to cool his heels for a bit, and then we'll let him go. So the throwing in his cell happens, but Bardaga is killed that night when Sarmina has her fox assistant, Fortunata, slip poison into the medicine that Gingivere gives him, because Green Eyes is smart enough to know that, yeah, I'm not taking anything from my daughter because she's a psychopath and is clearly trying to kill me. I will take the medicine from my son, whom I can trust.
Sarmina also, since she's bitter about not being able to kill Martin, breaks his sword.
Yep.
And hangs the broken blade with the hilt around his neck.
Yep. So Martin sits in jail for a while and is by himself until he gets company in the form of Gonf the Mouse Thief, who just keeps breaking in and out of the castle whenever he can because he finds it funny, and also because he can steal supplies for the Woodlanders. He gets caught this time and is thrown in a cell with Martin. They make friends, and Gonf is really good at breaking out of there, so they get out in pretty short order. Though Martin, before they leave, does stop to tell Gingivere, I haven't forgotten about you. You're the only one here who's been kind to me. I'll pay you back someday if I can. And this is how Martin joins the Resistance. Also joining the resistance are some refugees. Several mice from Loamhedge Abbey, which they are fleeing an unspecified sickness that basically just killed everything and everyone except for the handful who came with them. So Sister Germaine, or Abbess Germaine at this point, is just there to try and find a new place for them to live. So they're staying with the badger Bella in Brockhall until they can find somewhere else. One of the Loamhedge mice, named, I think it was Columbine?
Yes.
Falls for Gaunt, and they kind of pick up a flirtation. So, Resistance does Resistance things, and they basically... It's a lot of baiting out the Cotier forces into small victories where they can get them, but it's kind of a losing battle in the long term. And we get to discover all sorts of strange tricks that the castle has in store, such as the Gloomer, an insane water rat who they bring out just to kill. But that's when Skip Revaters reveals, yeah, we have a carnivorous fish that we've been saving up. We're going to let him out, and yep, no more Gloomer.
Whoopsie.
So there's a lot of repeated embarrassments for Sarmina to deal with. But this only lasts for so long, and eventually they decide that they're going to need further help. So Bella tells them they need to seek out her father, Bor the Fighter.
Yep. Who has traveled to the Badger stronghold of Salamandastron, like most male warrior badgers do.
And she hasn't seen him in many years. So there's that. They have to go through all this rigmarole and riddle to figure out how to get to him. And, you know, it's Redfall. There's always going to be a strangely prophetic poem to help you find someone. So Martin sets off with Gonf and... I had his name written down. I can't find where I put it.
Young Dibby, I think. Dinny.
And they eventually find their way to Salamandastron. Meanwhile, the Resistance is still very much ongoing, and it's going fairly well in some ways and not so well in others. They have been able to get good intel by bribing the Robin named Chib with lots and lots of candied chestnuts. He's cool with that. I always forget how silly Metaton's fight is. And they gain further intelligence in the form of the Mask, who is an otter who has lost his tail, but uses this to his advantage by being just a master of disguise. He disguises himself as a fox, makes friends with Fortunata, acts like he's spying on the Woodlanders, and quickly is accepted as a captain at Cotier because they've been kind of hemorrhaging people lately due to Sarmina losing her mind. You know, as you do. So they're quick to take him on, which puts him in a good position to free some prisoners, though it does get him killed. Meanwhile, Bor the Fighter is not apparently going to come with them, because he has foreseen his own death. And you can't fight fate, even though, you know, a lot of the books seem to be about fighting fate, even though it's following prophecies. So, you know, take that as you will. He is killed in battle with a sea rat, but...
Yep, Ripscar.
Yeah, Ripscar. But not before he reforges Martin's sword with metal from a meteorite. So it's now a very, very strong and powerful sword, the one that we actually come to know and obsess over finding in later books. And allow Martin and company to liberate the ore slaves from Ripscar's ship and take his ship so they can sail right up the river and get back to Mossflower. Meanwhile, there's been a larger plan at play, spearheaded by the moles, called Let's Dig Under Kotir because there's a lake down there and we're going to flood the place and let it sink. Sarmina gradually goes crazy from the sound of running water, as the castle slowly floods. And this is ultimately what kills her.
Yep. She eventually gets chased up to a high tower and forced to throw a desk, I think, out into the flooding courtyard of Kotir. And while the rest of the denizens of Kotir and her other underlings are getting fished out of the flooded courtyard and basically a crater that used to be a lake, and she gets separated from them and ends up getting or coming ashore near where Martin is, and he catches her alone and joins her in a duel where she nearly kills him, and he manages to drive her back into the water. Where she, suffering from her own wounds from Martin's blade and all that fun stuff, and her own paranoid fear of water, drowns.
Yep, but not before she does a real number on Martin, and they're not sure for a while if he's going to pull through.
Yep. The only reason he lives is because they get the abbess to him relatively quickly and haul him back. Bella hauls him back to safety, and his wounds are able to be treated. And even then, he is out of commission for a good while. As he's recovering from his injuries. Stop with the lightning.
About 3 weeks. A score of days had gone since the banishment.
Aha! No, I was almost done.
Now you are done. But yeah, we're basically about done with the plot here because Martin recovers, sees everybody is awake and happy, and Abbess Germain is, planning to build a great stronghold that will be safe for people to live in. An abbey with reddish stone walls because they found a quarry not far from where Gingivier has set up a farm.
Yep, and it's the same kind of stone that Kotir was built from, which is how the rebels knew that Kotir being flooded would result in the destruction of the very walls, which Martin promised Sarmina that Kotir wouldn't stand out the rest of the day, because the walls were all made from that same sandstone brick, and you submerge sandstone, it turns back into sand eventually. So yeah.
And that's how Redwall gets founded. And Martin spends a lot of the book being sad and not really who you'd expect.
Yep.
which we'll talk about later. Bye!